Downsizing our family into a 500 square foot home was more than just a lifestyle shift. It slowly became an entire heart transformation. Today, I want to share how this change impacted our finances, faith, community, and rhythms of life. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kian, and in today's video, I want to share a little bit about our downsizing journey. Let's jump in with why exactly we decided to downsize. So if you had watched my life update video, we truly thought we were moving to New York City. And so in preparation for that move, I began to declutter, and I started a whole series where I was decluttering every day leading up to this move. After going through that decluttering process and thinking we were about to make this cross-country move, I think our hearts were ready for a change. So we started considering moving still, but obviously remaining on an island. Our biggest reason for moving was to drive less throughout our day. I was driving 1 to 3 hours every single day with a toddler, which became quite exhausting. So that was our number one motivation, but some other reasons we moved was to be closer to our community and also to save some money financially. When we saw that this place had dropped in price, we really considered moving here because it would actually save us, I think, about $500 a month, which is a really nice drop in expenses. Since I was doing the decluttering challenge, I started watching videos on decluttering and minimalism, which inevitably influenced and kind of prepared my heart to downsize somewhere half the size of our old place. Our last home was about 1,000 square foot. It was a 2-bedroom. It was quite a large 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and it had a huge lanai and yard space. So this place is about half the size of that. Let me quickly explain to you guys our current living situation just so you have an understanding of how the property functions. So this is a 2-dwelling property. There is a main house that our friends live in, and that is a 3-bedroom, 2 office. So the space I'm in right now is technically their office space. And then we have the Ohana unit, which is technically, like legally, it is a 1-bedroom because the 2nd bedroom has no windows, so they can't consider it a bedroom, but it's a very small 2-bedroom house. And then we have a shared yard and shared lanai space, and then we have a laundry room that is in the carport, so it's like outside. But I will say we are able to use this office space for filming like this because our place does not have much natural light, and they didn't have any furniture in here, so they allowed us to put our furniture in here. So I guess if you were counting the office space as living, it would be a bit more than 500 square feet, but our unit itself is 500 square feet. Now I'm going to get into a little bit about how I care for my home and how that rhythm has changed. One thing I noticed was I'm definitely more mindful about my habits. Since it's such a small space, when there is clutter, it feels a lot more in your face and it's harder to ignore. So I feel like my tidying habits have gotten better. I've been better about putting things back where they belong. I've been more on top of cleaning, and also I have been more inspired to deep clean because it feels a lot more manageable compared to our last place. And that actually leads in perfectly to today's sponsor, which is Blueland. If you haven't heard of Blueland, they have some amazing cleaning product. I have used their stuff for years, but the last couple months I've been trying a few new products, which is their toilet bowl cleaner and their laundry tablets. One thing I love about Blueland is their products definitely meet the highest parental and environmental standards. They're not just clean, they are mom approved clean. My son is in a phase where he's loving to help me with things, whether that be the dishes, the laundry. It makes me feel really good that these products are safe to be used around kids. All their products are 100% plastic free and made with certified clean ingredients. I love that their products are eco-friendly. They have refillable cleaner bottles and nothing has single-use plastic. As a mom, I've had to really consider the products that I'm using around my house, and Blueland makes it easy to source just really high quality, effective cleaning products that I know will be safe to come in contact with my child. If you've been interested in trying Blueland, now is the perfect time because they have a special offer for my viewers. You can either scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in my description to get 15% off your first Blueland kit. Another thing I will say about caring for my home is I just feel like it was a great step for me as a homemaker to learn how to steward something smaller. I felt like I didn't steward our last home the best. Things often felt cluttered and would get dirty, and it was really hard to stay on top of just like the household maintenance. So it's been really nice to downsize and just learn from square one, just what routines work for me, what products work for me, and just how to care for a smaller home. I feel like it will set me up for the future if we do move into a larger space next. But also I feel like this has de-influenced me into wanting a huge home, because your girl is, just barely staying on top of 500 square feet. I don't think I need a mansion anymore like I always dreamed of. Okay, let's get into some practical changes from downsizing. I think the first one is kind of obvious. We had to get rid of a lot of our possessions. I remember when we unloaded the U-Haul into the carport, I was almost sick with how much stuff we had. I was like, there's no way that all of this stuff is going to fit into our little place. And it really didn't. We still have a ton of things stored outside. We had to get rid of a lot, and it's definitely not perfect. There's so many more things that I want to declutter and get rid of, especially with like the stuff that's stored outside. We're also spending less time inside our home. Thankfully, we live somewhere that has beautiful weather year round, so we do spend a lot of time outside at local beaches or coffee shops or like the local mall, or we'll even go to resorts and let the kids run around. We do have a nice yard area, but it is quite hot, so I try to get out of the house and like go to the local pool and things like that. So I have noticed that I am out and about a lot more, which is kind of a double-edged sword, because I found myself kind of getting exhausted by how much we were going out. But a big part of why we were getting out of the house is, well, one, the place felt a little small, but also we didn't have air conditioning. So the only room that has air conditioning in our house is the bedroom, and that's not enough to cool off the entire place. So midday it would get very hot in there, and it just wasn't an enjoyable environment to be in. Our place also has no windows that open besides the bathroom window, and so we weren't even getting any like fresh airflow either. But we recently installed a very small air conditioner unit into our bathroom, technically. It's definitely, it's a humble setup, okay? It's definitely not the most ideal, but I am so grateful for that little air conditioning unit, because it really helps cool off the rest of the house. Because I'm not gonna lie, that I was like, I don't know if I can last in this place much longer with the heat. Some other things I've noticed is we spend more time as a family when we are in the house, because the square footage is so small. There's not really like little escapes that you can go to. So I feel like in our old place, me and Kyle would maybe like sit in separate rooms and watch our own shows, or me and Legend would be playing in one room, but Kyle would be in the kitchen doing something else. But I find at this place, we are usually all hanging out in the same room at the same time. It is great for the size of our family, which is just me, my husband, my son, and our dog. I will say we had 3 kids in the house the other day, and that definitely felt a little bit more crowded for sure. Another big thing I noticed was, because of our space limitation, I was buying a lot less. I feel like this helped really curb the excess consumerism because truly did not have anywhere to put things. I honestly need to start the one in, one out rule with my closet soon. I need to do another closet clean out. Once everything kind of got settled, I feel like I barely made any more house purchases after that. Another thing I noticed was we are kind of hosting inside our house less. We still host with our outdoor space because that's pretty big, and we, have a picnic table and outdoor seating, but I noticed like I am never really inviting friends over to hang out at our house anymore. So that's a little bit of a change. Another practical thing that has changed is our appliances. We don't have an oven in this new house. Thankfully, we still have this built-in cooktop, which is really nice. And then we have a toaster oven. We definitely had to downsize on our appliances. I got rid of our microwave, which is something I wanted to do anyways, and honestly it hasn't been too challenging not having an oven. It's more so when I'm cooking for larger parties of people that it is harder, but I have been able to use my neighbor's oven for any situation like that so far. Okay, let's talk about some spiritual and emotional shifts that happened from this move, which honestly surprised me. The first thing I'll touch on is because I have a simpler home and a smaller space, I do feel like I experience more peace because I'm not having to worry about cleaning such a big house. I don't have to worry about as many things since we downsized and decluttered a lot of our possessions. I don't have to worry about doing as much laundry because we got rid of a lot of our clothes. Definitely helped me feel less overwhelmed with housework in general. One thing that really surprised me was just how much I needed to be humbled. Through this time of moving, I feel like God really revealed some heart changes that needed to be made. I felt a sense of entitlement in some ways and was very kind of self-focused. I've never really lived in community this way where we're sharing a property, and so I noticed myself just thinking of myself a lot and feeling entitled to certain things, or just really focused on me and my family and what I want instead of focusing on like how I can serve my community next door and how we can like really embrace a shared property together. So that was a fun journey of repentance and confession and just letting God do a work in my heart to be grateful and just have more gratitude for my space and gratitude for the additional perks we have and the grace that our neighbors extend to us for like letting us use the office space. Another thing I realized was I hate asking for permission for things. I think this probably stems from growing up with sisters, but we would never let each other borrow our clothes. I would sneak into my sister's room and steal her stuff, steal her underwear, like of all things. Anyways, but it got so bad she put a lock on her door when we were in high school. And so I think those habits from my teenage years had started coming to the surface here, where I felt like I don't want to ask for permission because that feels yucky to me. Even though like, of course, like that's like proper manners to ask for something. Anyway, so that was another thing that got brought to the surface, living in community as well. I'm not sure if this is related to moving, but ever since we've moved, I've definitely felt a deeper relationship with God. I'm not sure if it's because my routines are a little bit more simple and I'm not having to drive as much, and so I have more hours in my day to use towards better things like quiet time. I think there were several factors that led to me just having a deeper connection with God being here. And I think when you move environments, even if it's not downsizing, I feel like there's always ways that God wants to grow you, and a lot of things can be revealed when you're put into new situations. I feel like this kind of summarizes it perfectly. Living on a shared property refines your heart. It takes you from self-focused to neighbor-focused. The last thing emotionally I would say is it created deeper connection with my community. Not only are we living in community, but we're also much closer with our friends because we can access them easier. So I'm hanging out with a lot of people more often living in this space. Overall, I think it's just shifted my heart to not care about worldly possessions as much as I used to. I've mentioned in other videos that I recently read the book Redeeming Money, and I think that was a huge catalyst to all of this heart change as well, which I would definitely recommend if you feel like your possessions have control over you. Definitely read that book. Honestly, every believer should read that book. The next thing I want to share about are some challenges of downsizing and what I'm still learning or struggling with. I think one thing I have been struggling with is letting go of valuable things. It's not so much the thought of letting the thing go, but it's letting the thing go without getting money for it. For example, I have had a pile of clothes in my closet since we've moved in that I've been meaning to post to sell. And it's all things I do not want and have not thought about, but I do not want to part with them unless I get money because they have value. So I think that's the big thing is I really struggle to get rid of things that have value, but that leads me to these huge piles of things that I really don't want and are just taking up space because I haven't made the time to list all of them. And I think that's a huge roadblock for so many people who are trying to minimize or declutter. Is it's really hard to figure out what to do with your stuff, whether to donate, to sell, where to list it. I think as humans, we really want to justify and get back every penny that we can from these poor spending decisions or poor investments. And so that is something I definitely have struggled with and still do. The next thing I am still learning is just how to let go of control of the shared spaces. I think that is probably something inevitable. Thankfully, our neighbors are very kind and understanding people, and I think we have worked well together co-living on this space, but I feel like it's just an ongoing process of like learning how to share space. I would say the thing right now I'm struggling with the most is work, because only in the sense that our place does not have a lot of natural lighting, which is a huge part of making videos. And so I'm just having to depend on being able to use this office when I want to film or create content. And thankfully, a lot of the content I create is outside, which is really nice. But I will say the things that I'm having to film inside, it's definitely been the biggest struggle of moving, and why maybe a big reason why we would consider looking for a new place in the future. Probably not the near future, but it would just be really nice to be able to have a place in my own home to create a video like this where I'm not having to work around other people's schedules or needs and ask permission to use. But for now, I'm very grateful that we have this space. I don't think we could have moved into this house unless we had access here. So yeah, I'm very grateful that I have a place with some natural light to film on occasion. But yeah, I think that would be my biggest struggle with the new house, not even for the size, but just for the lighting. I feel like the last thing I kind of struggled with was after such a huge purge before the move and then the exhausting phase of moving, I have definitely stopped the decluttering. Like, I've taken a long pause on decluttering and have been avoiding some areas and drawers and things that I truly need to like go through and just spend the time to do. But I feel like I almost got burned out from so much decluttering so quickly that I've been in like a phase where I'm not decluttering anything. And so I was thinking it might be fun to do a whole video where you just come along with me as I declutter different areas of our home, because I feel like that would give me the motivation I need to actually get some of these things done. Lastly, I thought I would end off with some encouragement or some tips on how to start. Maybe you are considering downsizing, or maybe you just want to focus on decluttering and decreasing your possessions. There is a book by Joshua Becker called The More of Less. He walks you through the decluttering process room by room. That could be a great resource, but I would say focusing your mind and watching content of people who live a more minimal lifestyle will be very helpful, because if you are only watching influencers who are constantly doing hauls and bringing things into their house, or maybe they're just in a moving process where they're having to buy a lot, I think consuming that kind of content is going to bleed in to how you behave in the world. If you're trying to be really intentional, maybe just for this phase of life, to consume a little bit more minimalism content, decluttering content, or just like people who are very mindful about what they buy, I think that kind of content would be really helpful during this phase. I would also recommend having a friend over when you're decluttering, because I feel like just having someone who's non-biased is so helpful. Something I would constantly say through my decluttering journey was I feel like I have decision fatigue from making so many micro decisions on what to do with things during the process of decluttering. It was quite mentally exhausting. I noticed when I had a friend over to help, she was able to get through my piles so fast and just help me be very realistic on what to get rid of, and a little bit more cutthroat than I am with myself. I think having a bigger vision for why you want to declutter or downsize is also super important to hold on to throughout the entire process as well. Without vision, the people perish. And if you do not have good reason to declutter, or to buy more intentionally, or to consume less, it's just so easy to just get wrapped back into that cycle. So definitely have big vision for why you're doing it. A big why. Have your why. And lastly, I would just encourage you to practice gratitude throughout all of this. It almost feels like it's harder to find things to be grateful for because we have less, but there's just always things to be grateful for. And if I don't stay in that place of gratitude, I can easily spiral down into comparison of homes and belongings and space. And yeah, so definitely hold on to gratitude during these processes. I know not everyone is in a place where they are considering downsizing, but I encourage you to just reflect on maybe what downsizing or simplifying could look like in your life where you are currently. I love you guys, and remember, Jesus loves you more.